你有冇想過神嘅兒女喺世界上高要需要考試咧
Have you ever contemplated that as God's children that we have tests on this earth?
我今日所講嘅唔係學校裏邊嘅考試，唔係考你有幾多記憶力，亦都唔係考你有幾多理解力。
And I'm not talking about the tests or exams in school to test how much you can remember, how much you understood.
我所要講嘅就係一種嘅考試係考個過程個經歷，考你喺任何呢個過程一部分嘅當中嘅表現。
But rather, this test is in this process, in your experience, is testing your performance in every aspect of it.
我哋當中如果揸個車嘅，有考過車牌嘅，都可能會容易明白呢一樣嘢。今日我就用呢一個考車牌嘅比喻嚟到解釋聖經。
And perhaps you have to take a road test for your driver's license. You might understand that what I'm talking about today about this testing.
到底考牌官點樣考你咧？考啲乜嘢嘢咧
？And how does the examiner evaluate you?
我相信有啲肥個佬嘅考車牌肥個佬啊，事後突然間醒悟過嚟，係有乜嘢被考嘅。
I believe those who have failed the test, the road test, they understood afterward what went wrong.
未講之前，我要解釋一下，因為有啲土生人咧，佢只係明白呢個肥佬嘅意思就係好大好肥嘅人。
I don't think they understood at all, but failed.
其實呢個字啊，香港人都用呢個肥佬呢個字咧，就係用英文呢個英文字 fail。但係咧，我哋你知好多年之前香港人咧講英文講得唔清楚啦，就係用呢個 fail 就講肥佬，所以講肥佬意思就其實係英文嘅 fail 嘅意思，就唔係一個人大件好肥，即係話佢失敗咗啦，考試唔合格啦，咁就叫 fail 就係唔合格。
Oh, in Chinese they have a terms called being obese, meaning that of fat, but actually what it means is that it's a direct pronunciation of the word English word fail.
所以當我講肥佬嘅時候，你識聽中文嗰啲咁嘅土生咧，就唔好諗住肥人喎，你係講話考試唔合格。
So it only means that you didn't pass the test when we say fail.
原來考牌官唔係單單睇你懂唔懂得開車。
Examiner not only looking at you, look at how if you are able to operate a car.
敢唔敢開得開架嘅？敢唔敢加速或者可唔可以轉線
Or rather, you can start the car, or are you afraid to increase the speed, or can you turn the car?
唔係考你識唔識路去到目的地。
Neither do that. Are testing you if you know your way to your destination?
原來考車牌係睇你整個嘅過程。
But actually, this exam, they look at the whole process.
任何一個車程裏邊，你所做任何一樣嘢
And anything and everything that you do within this process.
有啲人唔知道，原來甚至乎你未開車之前，佢都係考緊你嘅。
And for some people, they didn't know that even before you actually start the exam, he's already evaluating you.
我個教車師傅就點啊？叮囑我。
That the driving teacher has many times reminded me.
佢話：你考車牌嘅時候咧，千祈唔好以為咧，你開車去到嗰個地方嘅市場已經調整好你嘅所有座位同埋倒後鏡，到考牌嘅時候咧就唔需要再調整啦。
Is that even though that you have adjusted all your mirrors and seat before you went to the examination, but before the examination, and then you think that you don't have to do that anymore.
佢話：你明明教好晒所有嘅嘢，但係當考牌官叫你開車嘅時候咧，你首先要移下張凳，整下啲鏡，睇清楚。
And that before, when the examiner sit in the car, before you start the car, then you have to adjust your mirrors, adjust your seat, and do everything that you done before.
你要整色整水，做戲都要做多次噶啦。
And even though everything is right, you need to pretend that you're doing it.
所以原來你未開車之前，佢已經考緊你噶咯。
Because before you even start the car, he's already evaluating you.
教會以前一個姊妹咧，考車牌肥佬好幾次。
And there's a sister in the church she failed a couple of times for the road test.
每一次翻嚟嘅時候，都同我哋講咧有新嘅發現，原來咧係疏忽咗另外一樣嘢，係冇留意到嘅。
And every time she came back, she discovered that there are things that she neglected to do every time.
原來呢個考牌官咧就係留心睇一啲嘢，你點樣反應。
And actually, examiner is looking how we react to certain things.
每一樣都睇你嘅。
And he's looking at everything that you do.
當你過線嘅時候，到底你有冇擰個頭嚟望一望側邊有冇車咧？
For instance, did you check your blind spot when you cutting lanes?
而家有啲車咧，有個點講啊？我唔識點形容啦。我個車咧，如果側邊有車有個燈喺度閃啊，你根本唔需要擰側邊嘅。但係你考牌嘅時候咧，你唔可以咁樣做。
In modern cars, they have a light that indicated there's a car beside you on your blind spot. But when you are taking the exam, you have to ignore it and actually check with your eyes.
我有一個兒女係考牌唔合格嘅時候咧，翻嚟同我講咧，原來佢係疏忽睇咗隔離有個單車，有單車路。
And one of my children, when she came, they failed the test and came back and told me that because they neglected there was a bike path beside it.
所以往往當我哋粗心大意，以為唔重要嘅細節嘅時候，就喺嗰件事裏邊肥咗腦啦。
And a lot of time when we're careless on the details, that's where we failed.
如果你小心翼翼、步步為營嘅時候，響任何一步都係小心留意嘅時候，你嗰個肥佬嘅機會係減低咗嘅。
And if we're being attentive in every step of the way, then the chance of failure is lessened.
當你疏忽大意，以為呢啲嘢都唔係好有關係嘅時候，你就會撞大板啦。
But if you are careless and thought that all these things does not matter, then you get into trouble.
大家聽唔明我講咧？如果明嘅時候，我問你另外一個問題啦。
And if you understood what I said, then I'll ask you another question.
最近你考試有冇合格咧？
That recently, did you pass your test?
你會牧師有冇搞錯啊？考咩試？我又唔係學生，我又唔係考車牌，有乜嘢試俾我考咧？
You may ask, well, what exam are you talking about? I'm not in school, and I'm not getting my driver's license.
我要反問你，你有冇搞錯啊？你連考緊試你都唔知道。
But I ask you once again, is that didn't you know you are taking a test right now?
你一頭霧水，我要解釋俾你聽，點解我咁講咧？
You may be confused, and I will explain to you.
讓我喺神嘅話語裏邊，同大家學習一下神俾每個屬神嘅兒女嘅考試。
That from God's word, we need to learn that God give every one of His children a test.
申命記第8章第2節開始，你也要記念耶和華你的神在曠野引導你這40年，要苦練你，試驗你，要知道你心內如何，肯守他的誡命不肯。我每一個試驗嗰個字咧，就考試咧，呢個字都係寫紅色嘅。他苦練你，任你飢餓，將你和你列祖不認識的嗎哪賜給你吃，使你知道人活着不是單靠食物，乃是靠耶和華口裏面所出一切嘅話。這40年你的衣服沒有穿破，你腳沒有腫，你當心裏思想耶和華你的神管教你，好像人管教兒子一樣。你要謹守耶和華你神嘅誡命，遵行他的道，敬畏他。
Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors have known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in obedience to him and revering him. For the
感謝主，多謝俾我哋有你嘅話語。
Thank you, Lord, for your word.
因為你嘅話就係生命，就係大能，
Because your word is power and life
可以釋放我哋。
that can relieve and
今
free
日
us.
懇求主你在我哋嘅捆綁當中，使到我哋得到釋放，
Oh Lord, may you free us from our bondage,
叫我哋成為得勝嘅人。
so we can be one who is
喺呢個
victorious.
咁艱難嘅日子裏邊， 俾我哋能夠勝利，
that we can have victory in these difficult times,
可以討你嘅喜悅，
that will be pleasing to you.
賜福每一個聽道嘅人，
May you bless all those who hear the word,
更賜福每一個行道守道嘅人。
and more so those who be obedient to the word.
我哋咁樣禱告奉主耶穌嘅聖名求，
We pray all this in Jesus' name.
阿門。
Amen.
今日所講嘅題目就係成功考生命嘅路試，揸車考嘅路試啊，生命嘅路試。
And that how can we be successful in taking the road test?
你有冇想過神俾你考試考驗你咧？
Do you ever thought that God would give you a test to test you?
教會嘅人經常唔會咁樣諗嘅，
And most often, the people in church will not think that way.
因為教會裏邊有教導話，好似呢個根據呢個雅各書第1章第12到13節裏邊所講啊，神唔試探人嘅，唔試驗人嘅。
Because according to James chapter 1, verse 12 to 13, that God does not tempt people.
所以我哋好多時往往咧就係有咁嘅觀念，就覺得神唔會咁樣做。
So we have the concept that God will not do that.
錯，
That's wrong.
神經常試驗我哋，神考驗我哋，就等於我哋頭先所講嘅考試。
And on the contrary, God tests us all the time, just as we said that we take the exam.
好似頭先所講呢個考牌官一樣，神喺任何時間、任何階段，從開始或者未開始，已經係可以係試驗我哋、考驗我哋到佢對佢點樣樣。
Actually, even God, like the examiners in the road test, that in this process, at any time, even before this process begins, He's evaluating us.
考驗我哋做事係咪忠心，考驗我哋係咪有愛心，係咪去關心人。
And to see that are we faithful? Are we concerned about caring for others? And do we have a love inside us?
在我哋嗰啲粗心大意、不以為然嗰啲事、好大意嗰啲事上高咧，其實神就係考驗緊我哋。
That during those things that we are careless about, those small things, that's where God is testing us.
呢個民數記第14章第23至24節咧，所講嘅說話同今日所讀經文咧，啱啱係配合嘅。
And in Numbers chapter 14, this is very, I see it's very close to what we're saying, talking
但
about
係所
today.
講嘅角度係啱啱相反。
But the perspective is the opposite.
佢所講嘅唔係講到神考驗，好似《申命記》裏邊所講嘅，乃係講到人考驗神、試驗神。
It wasn't talking about that God giving a test, as in Deuteronomy, rather that the people are testing God.
佢哋試探神10次咁多，唔聽神嘅說話，然後惹神發嬲。
And they have tested God 10 times and provoked God to anger 10 times.
呢度所講兩樣嘢係講同一嘅事情嚟嘅。
Well, even though they seem to talk about two different things, but actually they talk about the same thing.
就係神講啊，我10次試你哋，考驗你哋，幫你考試。但係呢度講啲人咧就10次考驗神。
Well, actually God here is they actually God giving the people 10 times a test. And yet the Bible said that the 10 times that people were testing God.
講一講從人嘅角度嚟睇，
Let's look from the perspective
以色列
of
人
man.
每一次遭遇意外，大家唔如意嘅事嘅時候，都認為神係錯咗。
Every time that Israelites encounter any difficulty, they thought that God is in the wrong.
神失策啦，冇用周詳嘅計劃，神係失信啦，係肥佬咗啦。
And that God had to make a misstep, and God had to broke His promise, and God didn't hold up His end of the deal, and He failed.
我哋今日要睇佢哋嘅角度，就好似我哋一班人咧，退咗休嗰啲人咧，周圍去導遊、去旅遊啊，梗係有導遊帶你行路嘅。
And for all those who have retired, they go and travel to different places, and they usually have a guide.
你今日要睇咧，就係當咧以色列人睇神，好似睇個導遊一樣。哇！呢個導遊有冇搞錯？帶我去咁嘅地方，指條黑路俾我行，明明係死路一條嚟嘅，點解會帶我去咁嘅地方？
And this is how the Israelites view God. He saw him as a guide. And even though when God is guiding them, we thought, well, God is leading us to a dead end, to a place that we shouldn't be going.
有10次啊，佢寫低呢個咁嘅遊客嗰個咁嘅旅遊員之後嗰個咁嘅報告咧，去點樣去投訴啊？10次啊，撞晒大板嘅。
And that as a traveler, that they write down in their comment afterwards that they were in trouble.
呢個咁嘅導遊啊，帶我哋紅海面前啦，本來有條好路近啲嘅，唔帶我哋去喎，偏偏就要帶我哋行呢個紅海裏邊咧，前無去路，後有追兵啲，因為啲埃及嘅軍隊嚟到追上啦。
So even though there's a shorter way, a shortcut, but yet God led us to the Red Sea, and that we are being chased after by an army.
然後佢質問呢個導遊，佢話埃及冇好嘅墳地咩？點解帶我哋嚟到死無葬身之地，連墳墓都冇嘅地方咧？
And they question God and say, "Isn't there graves in Egypt that you have to let us to die here?"
所以佢斷定呢個咁嘅導遊啊，係肥咗腦㗎。
So this guy has failed in his task.
然後喺呢個出埃及記15章25節裏邊所講嘅，佢去到個水邊嘅時候飲啲水苦嘅。
And in Exodus chapter 15, they came to a place where there's water, but the water was bitter.
有冇搞錯啊？呢個做導遊嘅你唔知道咩？啲水苦點解帶我哋呢度咁樣飲啲水啊？
And as a guide, didn't you know that the water is bitter? Why do you lead us here?
咁然後跟住喺沙漠裏邊咧係冇水飲喎，然後佢斷定咗神又係失策啦。點解帶我嘅地方係冇水嘅地方先帶我哋去咧？
And again, when they're in the wilderness, they didn't have water to drink. Once again, they concluded God and make a misstep and lead them to a place where there's no water.
每一次當我哋絕望有逆境嘅時候，都斷定咗神肥咗腦啦。
And every time that they face hopelessness, and they concluded that God has failed.
但係今日我哋所讀嘅經文開始所讀嘅係俾我哋一個重大嘅秘密。
But the scripture that we read earlier in the beginning reveal a secret to us.
讓我哋睇到啲人嘅錯覺。
And allow us to see the misconception of man.
但係其實我哋都一樣啊，唔好以為以色列人係咁樣。
Do not think that the Israelites alone, that we are the same as them.
其實當我哋坐呢一個司機座位嘅時候
，as we are sitting at the driver's seat，
我哋就覺得自己係主位。當我哋揸住軚盤嘅時候，我哋可以為我哋自己話事，可以斷定邊個對，邊個唔對。
And when we are holding the steering wheel, that we thought that we are in charge and we can determine who is right and who is wrong.
但係咁嘅想法係大錯特錯嘅，因為咧事實係剛剛相反。
But this is totally wrong because the truth is quite the opposite.
你有冇想過啊？側邊廠你側邊嗰個乘客啊，其實就係考牌官嚟嘅。
And you know the passenger sitting beside you actually is the examiner.
佢就係幫緊你考試，觀察緊你點樣反應嘅。
And he's observing you in this process, evaluating you.
我哋睇錯就係話咧，哇！呢意料之外嘅事係佢失策啊，指錯我行路啊。
Our misconception is that all the unexpected things that happen to us is the wrong of the passenger.
但係佢估唔到，原來10次咁多，原來唔係佢哋幫神考試，乃係神幫緊佢哋考緊試。
Little did they know for 10 times they were not testing God. Actually, God gave them a test.
神係主考官，係裁判佢哋合格還是唔合格嘅。
God is an examiner. He judges whether they failed or passed.
佢哋俾神0分。
They gave God a mark of 0.
呢個咁嘅導遊啊，10次啊，啲撞大板嘅，帶我哋走錯路嘅，0分，以後唔好要佢。
And 10 times this guy had led us down the wrong road, and we will not ever use them again.
我哋有冇犯咁嘅毛病咧？
Is this also our problem?
我哋有冇以為自己啱，神錯咧？
Did we think that we were right and God was wrong?
當然我哋冇咁諗啦，但係我哋做咗，我哋唔知啊。
Maybe we didn't think this way, but rather we put it into action.
所以我哋今日要清清楚楚明白呢個道理，應驗用喺我哋生命上高，免得我哋受到虧損嘅。
So we have to understand this lesson very clearly and apply it into our life, unless that we will suffer loss.
我哋要緊緊記住，原來神係經常 係考驗我哋，神係考牌官，任何車程當中都可以幫我哋計分嘅。
We need to remember that God is testing us all the time, like an examiner, throughout the process, that we will be evaluated in everything.
任何你生命裏邊所要經歷嘅嘢啊，都可以成為你嘅考驗。
That everything that we experience can become a test for us.
弟兄姊妹啊，呢件事唔係只係單係局限於以色列人喺呢個曠野裏邊。
And brothers and sisters, this not only happened to the Israelites in the wilderness.
聖經裏邊講到咧，原來神咧屢次咧係俾屬神嘅人嘅生命當中嘅經歷，成為佢哋被試驗嘅功課。
There are many times that God have allowed the experiences of different people in the Bible to become a test.
創世記第22章第1節。
Book of Genesis chapter 22 verse 1.
神要試亞伯拉罕，
And
就叫
God,
佢嚟到將佢嘅仔以撒獻上。
God wanted to test Abraham and asked him to offer up his son Isaac as a
考試
sacrifice.
試驗，
It's a test.
然後當神行神蹟醫好咗希西家之後，巴比倫嘅王係派啲使者嚟慰問呢個希西家。原來聖經裏面亦都講啦，係神要試驗佢嘅。
And when God performed a miracle and healed Hezekiah from his terminal illness, afterward Babylon sent an envoy to greet him. But also little they know that this is also in the Bible said that this is a test for Hezekiah.
我一陣會解釋多啲。
Later on, I'll explain this a little bit more.
響出埃及記16章第14至8節，神咧響安息日之前咧，叫以色列人收嗰啲馬拿收雙倍，因為咧安息日咧佢哋唔應該做工作，佢哋就唔應該收出嚟收嘅。
That in Exodus chapter 16, verse 4 to 5, it said that before the day of rest, the Sabbath, that God asked them to pick up twice the amount of manna.
聖經裏面所講啊，神咁樣吩咐佢哋，原來亦都係考緊試煉緊佢哋。
And the Bible told us that when God instructed them to do so, this is also a test for the Israelites.
好多人唔合格，因為佢撞咗板啦，佢安息日走出去做。
And many people have failed that test because many went out on the day of Sabbath to pick up food. 當主耶穌講完道之後 And after Jesus finished preaching,
有幾千人聽佢講道，佢都行神蹟，已經有3日冇食嘢啦，因為佢聚會真係好長嘅。
And there's thousands of people who were listening to him preaching and see him perform miracles. It's been 3 days since they have eaten.
我經歷過咁嘅聚會啊，係由1個鐘頭多啲變成3日咁長嘅，因為神喺當中做工作，有啲人被醫好啊之類嘅。我明白主耶穌嗰所經歷係點樣。
Experienced similarly in a meeting where you're supposed to be an hour, but I lasted 3 days because God was moving among people, healing people.
主耶穌就試呢個腓力人，佢話：你哋俾嘢佢食啦。
So
其實試緊佢嘅喎，考緊試嘅喎。
So understood what the experience of those people at the time, but afterwards Jesus asked as a test to say, well, where are you going to get food for them?
我今日需要解釋就係話神咧，其實喺好多不同嘅經歷嘅當中，係俾我哋考試嘅，睇我哋點樣做嘅。
And I want to explain to you that in different circumstances and experiences, God actually uses to test us to see how what we would do and how we would react.
相信我哋有啲人咧係睇過呢個電視節目叫臥底老闆。
I believe many of you probably heard or watched the Undercover Boss.
我睇過2-3套啦，唔係睇好多，因為唔係好經常睇電視嘅。臥底老闆就係咧，佢一個做老闆嘅。化妝成為另外一個人，等啲人認唔到佢，而去到佢所有嘅公司裏邊咧，睇嗰啲員工點樣做嘢。
And the boss go to in disguise go to the place of work and see how the workers actually work during the day.
往往佢扮得又或者就好蠢啊，或者諸如此類嘅唔識嘢啊，等你去教佢啊，諸如此類，就係響你 唔為意嘅時間嘅時候，佢幫你上咗數。
And the boss will pretend they don't know anything and have you to instruct them and help them. But unknowingly, during this time, you are being evaluated.
呢個突擊考試啊，呢個係最好測驗你嘅方法嚟嘅。
This is a
突擊考試 ，spontaneous, I guess, unscheduled exam. Forgot the word. There must be another word. 當你預知幾時要考試
and when you go through this test,
當你預知老闆幾時嚟
if you knew that when your boss will show up,
你心裏邊防備嘅時候，你啲咁嘅嗰啲唔好嘅地方啊，你會遮掩咗佢。
and when you prepare, you would hide all the bad things.
神就好似呢個臥底老闆咁啊，坐你側邊嚟到埋身，好貼身咁樣觀察你對任何嘅環境點樣去反應。
And God is like this undercover boss that He's sitting beside you. He's very close to you, and just to observe you and how you react.
我哋要醒目啲啊，因為有啲在喺啲無關重要，我哋以為無關重要嘅事，我哋估唔到原來神幫緊我哋計緊分嘅。
And we have to be more alert and little we know that in the little details that God is actually evaluating us on it.
然後之後呢個臥底老闆有一日咧現身嘅時候咧，係幫佢哋算賬嘅。
And then days after, the boss will come and reveal himself and actually make them be accountable.
有啲咧係俾佢賞賜啊、加薪啊、升職啊、俾年假俾佢啊咁樣之類，因為嗰啲係成功咗，冇人佢唔知道嘅，佢做咗，哇個老闆好賞識。
And some of them are being rewarded with the promotions, salary, or vacation times because they have done the right thing unknowingly.
另外一啲咧，求其嘅，又粗心大意嘅，又唔好嘅態度嘅，個老闆哇受晒嗰啲氣嘅時候咧，到最深尾幫佢算賬。
But for others who are giving the boss a hard time and have a bad attitude, at this time God will also make them accountable.
我會再提醒大家。神係可以用任何一個過程係考我哋試，喺我哋想唔到嘅細節裏邊咧係考驗我哋。
I want to remind you that God can test us in anything, even in the little details.
喺呢個10次嘅試探試驗嘅當中咧，舉個例子就係咧冇食物啦。
And the 10 times that God tests the Israelites, one of them is that when there's no food,
考佢哋到底有冇信心喎。
and to test their faith.
另外有食物都可以考佢哋嘅喎。
But even if they give them, they have food, yet they can also be tested
俾
there.
佢哋雙份嘅食物，星期安息日之前啊，都係可以考佢哋。
And giving them to a double portion of the food, that is also a test.
食物冇味道又可以考佢哋。
And if the food have no taste, it's also a test.
你唔好以為神考你嗰啲啊，應該係好深奧嘅嘢、好難嘅嘢，係咁淺嘅就睇到你嘅態度係點樣啦。
Do not think that God will give you a test that is very hard and very deep, but God just use simple thing to test you.
當我走投冇路嘅時候，亦都可以考驗佢哋。
And when we have nowhere to go, and that's also become a test.
遲啲我哋都會講啊，當佢哋走投有路啊、有出路啊，係完成佢哋嘅旅程嘅時候，都係考緊佢哋。
And even though that we have to find a way out, that we have almost at our destination, yet that can also be a test.
所以今日要好似我個教車師傅一樣咁樣叮囑大家一樣嘢。
And just as the driving teacher have asked me to remind me of.
就係嗰啲芝麻綠豆，我哋睇嚟微不足道嘅事上高，要更加加倍咁樣小心，因為呢個好可能神用嚟做我哋考試嘅問卷。
That we need to be mindful of the details because all these details may be something God would use to test us on.
就係喺飲水呢件事裏邊啊，都可以經常我哋做噶啦，飲水咁樣一日飲多一次水噶啦。但係神都可以用呢個飲水嚟到試我哋，睇我哋點樣樣嘅。
And even the drinking water that we do every day, God as a test to us.
神睇我哋心地係點樣，係咪真心，係咪忠心，係誠心。
And God will see our moral character. Are we genuine? Are we faithful? Are we sincere?
係咪謙卑？係咪信服？係咪真係愛人愛神？
Are we humbling ourselves? Are we really loving God and loving those around us?
你可能話：哇，神咁愛我，點解要咁留難我？要點會咁考我啊？讓我失敗啊？
Well, if God loved me so much, why does He put all these tests before me to test me?
弟兄姊妹唔好睇錯啊！
Do not be mistaken.
神要考試幫我哋啊，突擊考試啊，係要令我哋成功，唔係要令我哋失敗噶。
And the surprise test that God gives us is not for us to fail, but rather for us to be successful.
我做父母都知道，考試唔係唔好嘅，考試係令到你用功，係要令到你咧成功嘅。
And as parents, we know tests are not a bad thing. It makes you work harder and make you more successful.
聖經經文裏邊所講到，神考驗佢哋就好似父母管教養育佢嘅兒女，係磨練佢哋，等佢成長。
And as the Bible said that that when He testing us, He's testing us as a man would test their son and daughter.
所以我哋唔好睇啲負面嘅，以為神考驗我咧係要上我數咧，係要抄我魷魚，唔係咁啊！頭先所講臥底老闆啲成功嗰啲得到賞賜。
And do not think that God wanted to test us and wanted me to fail and then cast me out. But actually look at the undercover boss that actually built who passed, they are being rewarded.
所以今日我哋要留意一樣嘢，就係喺我哋生命裏邊每一個轉接嘅當中，有冇可能係神嘅時間要考試？
And we look into our life, is it the time that we turning points that where God is testing us?
重要嘅嘢、細微嘅嘢
，and important things or small things。
我今日要講解釋一樣嘢咧，係同普通嗰啲人嘅想法，基督徒嘅想法係相反嘅。
And what I want to explain to you is quite contrary to the common thinking of a Christian。
我哋經常引用一個咁嘅比喻，就係呢個足印嘅比喻。
And many times we make reference to the footprint。
呢個足印嘅比喻，我再重溫大家嗰個記憶咧，就係響沙灘上嗰見到兩對嘅腳印，兩個人嘅腳印啦。
And I just paraphrase that what this footprint is that we see two sets of footprints on the sand。
一對神嘅大啲嘅，一對係我嘅細啲嘅。
And one belongs to God and one belongs to me。
然後睇下咧，點解到一個階段，點解得翻一對腳印嘅？得翻我嗰對腳印，冇咗神嗰大嘅對腳印。然後嗰個時間嗰個階段咧，喺我最困難、最痛苦嘅時間。
And at the time of where I face trouble, I only see one set of footprint。
咁然後我哋問神啦，神啊，點解我最艱難嘅時間，你唔同我同在，你離棄咗我咧？
And did we ask God that during my most difficult times, where are you? Why did you forsake me?
嗰個答案就係話，原來神嘅答案唔係啊，我冇離棄你啊，因為喺嗰個時間裏邊咧，對唔住，我講翻錯咗，係佢話神背負佢一個大嘅足印，冇佢嘅足印啊，因為神背負佢啊嘛。
And the conclusion was that God's answer to him was that this one set of footprint belongs to me because at the time I am carrying you。
係孭住 piggyback，就係孭喺個膊頭裏邊，所以變咗咧係得一對足印。咁好多時我聽到例子嘅時候，我聽到例子，哇，好安慰啊！神咁眷顧我。
When I thought about footprint, I feel very comforted because that's how concerned God is about me。
呢個解釋好安慰我哋，但係唔係完全對。
This interpretation comforts us, yet is not complete。
係呢個咁嘅解釋係缺少經文裏邊嘅支持。
And this explanation that have lacked the support from the scriptures。
唔係一定係根據真理嚟去講嘅。
It does not necessarily is according to the truth。
點解得對足印咧
？Why is there only one set of
對唔
footprints？
住啊！當我講嘅時候，我睇到一樣嘢就係，如果留翻一個足印，就唔係應該神背負我哋嘅時候留翻個小嘅足印啦，應該留翻個大嘅足印，唔見咗我哋足印啦，喺最人生嘅經歷裏邊。但係呢個比喻係講唔到、表達唔到呢樣嘢嘅。你明唔明白？如果神孭你嘅時候，就冇咗呢個腳印，就係只係得神嘅腳印喺地上，咁你就知道神孭緊你咯。但係呢個足印話點解就係得我咧咁樣？所以嗰 個邏輯已經出咗少少問題。Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, the logic of this footprints, footprint in the sand story is this: in my most difficult time, I only see my own set of footprints. So where is God? Where are you? And then the answer is God said, I'm carrying you. So if God is carrying you, then his footprint is there and your footprint is not there. Then it's most logical. But if you see don't see God's footprint and only yours, that it doesn't match the story. 我要解釋一樣嘢，呢係足印嗰個意思。
And I will explain to you the meaning of the footprint.
剛才我略提到希西家。
And before, when we talk about Hezekiah,
希西家有一個足印嘅經歷。
And Hezekiah have a footprint experience.
佢經歷過呢個病得要死，神話你要死啦。
He experienced this terminal illness, and God told him that you will die.
希西家好傷心。
And Hezekiah was sad.
嗱，當呢個神醫好佢之後，呢個巴比倫嘅使者被差遣嚟慰問佢。
And after he was healed by God, Babylon sent an envoy to him.
歷代志上下第32章第31節講到神俾佢個考試。
That in the Second Chronicle chapter 32, it said that God gave him a test.
呢個考試就係神離開咗佢。希西家只係見到一對嘅足印，就係佢自己嘅足印。
Says that God left him, so Hezekiah at that time only saw one set of footprint.
要睇佢心係點樣，考驗緊佢係點樣。
And how? Because God is testing his heart.
呢度冇講到咧，神係背負緊呢個希西家最艱難、最大嘅試驗嘅當中，呢個係大試驗嘅。雖然好翻咗病，因為咧之後有好多嘅問題產生。
This is a great test because even though he was healed from his illness, yet there's a lot of trouble after that.
神冇同佢同在。
God was not with him.
佢只係見到自己嘅足印。
He saw his own set of footprint.
佢一時疏忽就肥咗腦啦。
And because he was careless and he failed this test.
香港時間佢一時得意，將佢國家裏面所有嘅財寶。佢所儲存嘅，佢父母所儲存嘅，佢連大衛啊、所羅門所儲存最珍寶嘢，都俾呢個巴比倫王嘅使者睇。
At the time he was cut, he showed everything that his country had, everything that accumulated by his parents, by David and by Solomon.
神冇同佢一齊，佢就做錯咗啦。
When God was not with him, he did something wrong.
財不可露眼啊！
That you don't reveal your wealth to others.
你俾晒咁多財寶俾人睇，係中咗以後，你個禍根就係呢個巴比倫王嗰啲嘅使者翻到講，哇咁多財寶喎！佢哋啲人咧就心喐喐咧，以後要嚟到去攻打以色列咧，係搶奪佢哋嘅所有財寶。
And after you reveal all your wealth to other people, then it planted a seed in the heart of Babylonians. Then one day they will invade you to get all these wealth.
帶俾佢哋以後亡國嘅先兆。
And this is the a foreshadow of the fall of the nation.
以賽亞先知收尾去群分佢，群分係去質問佢啊，點解你咁樣做咧
？And Isaiah came and questioned him, why did you do that?
佢話：我俾佢哋睇晒我啲財寶咯。佢話你錯啦。
And then Isaiah said that you were wrong in doing that.
弟兄姊妹啊，我哋要小心。
Brothers and sisters, we need to be careful.
我哋唔可以話大安主話，當我最艱難、最痛苦、最無助嘅時候，哇！神背負我喎。
And do not take it as take it so easily that in the time of trouble that God will be carrying you.
我話未必，唔係話一定唔會，但係我哋要小心呢個時間係乜嘢時間。
I'm not saying God will not carry you, but we need to be careful to know what time, what is happening.
大衛亦都有一個見到只係得佢自己嘅足印嘅經歷。
And David also have a time when he only saw his own footprint.
當佢有一段時間有中年危機，我相信係中年危機嘅。
And during that time, I believe is midlife crisis for David.
當佢筋疲力盡，做乜嘢都起唔起勁啦。
And at the time, he had no energy to do anything.
佢連佢應當經常去做嘅要做嘅嘢都做唔到啦。
He was so burned out that he was not able to do the thing they usually do.
聖經有講啦，有一日佢太陽落山嘅時候，佢先起到身啊。
And the Bible tells us that he only got up from our bed when it's dusk.
你估神有冇背負佢喺呢個沙灘嘅足印裏邊咧，係度過呢個中年嘅危機咧？
Do you think God is actually carrying him during this time of midlife crisis for David?
我哋以為係，
You may think so.
但係神原來喺嗰個時間係幫佢考緊試。
But at that time, actually, God is examining him.
當佢最低落嘅時間，最需要神嘅時間，
At the time where he's most downcast, most needful of God.
我哋見唔到神背負佢喺個肩頭嘅上高，
I
等
we
佢
do
渡過
not
呢個
see
難關。
carrying him on his back to overcome the
聖經裏邊
difficulties.
試一講俾你知道，大衛係見到拔士巴赤裸裸喺佢面前喺度沖涼。
And at that time, David only saw that Bathsheba being naked and taking a bath
神
in front
冇
of
背
him.
負佢經歷呢個咁嘅大嘅挑戰，
And God did not carry David on his back
但係神
as
係
he
觀察
goes
咁呢
through this
咁大嘅
challenge.
挑戰嘅當中，佢可唔可以勝過？
And God gave me this chance to see if he actually can overcome.
大衛肥咗腦啦，大衛犯咗奸淫啦，大衛係借刀殺人啊，
And David failed. He committed adultery and he committed murder.
係完全失敗啊！
That he completely failed.
當你見唔到神嘅時候，
When you do not see God,
我希望大家唔好只係大安主義話神而家幫我做晒，所以我可以唔理啦，我可以判咗爛啦。
and that do not take it so easily to think that now God have done everything for me. I don't have to do anything.
當我哋人生到最大嘅艱難經歷嘅時候，我哋要更加小心。
And we have to be more careful when we are going through the greatest trials in our lives.
我哋要勝過，
We have to
我哋要
overcome.
提高警覺。
We have to be in high alert.
我哋要打呢場仗，唔好以為咧，你知嗰啲唔提醒自己精神嗰啲一定輸㗎，你知道。
And we need to ready to fight this battle. If we're not alert, for sure that we will lose.
要瞓晒落去，等人哋幫你打仗嘅係唔贏㗎。
And you want to let other people fight for you, you will never win.
你唔好以為聖經裏邊所講嘅神咧，響佢哋將嗰啲以色列軟弱變為剛強嘅，咪幫佢打咯。但係佢哋係倚靠神，佢哋嗰時候，佢哋提高警覺，唔係好似我哋一啲到有危機嘅時候放鬆咗警覺。
And when God actually is actually strengthening the people, that He's not actually fighting for them. He's actually put them into high alert. So the same thing with us, that when we are ready to fight, we should be in high alert and not being relaxed.
聖經裏面所講嘅，當我等磨難日子裏邊，我哋要穿起神全副嘅軍裝，去抵擋仇敵個火箭，還能站立得住。
And the Bible tells us that when we are going through the trial, that we need to put on the full armor of God so we can endure the attack of the
唔
enemy.
係話將我哋啲軍裝除晒啦，我打唔掂啊！神幫緊我打算啦，神會俾我勝利啊！
And not to take off our armor and say, "Oh, God will fight for us. I don't even need to do anything."
弟兄姊妹啊，唔好睇錯。
And brothers and sisters, do not be mistaken.
有一樣嘢肯定嘅就係神決不會幫我哋考試，
And one thing for sure, God will not take the test for us.
叫我哋連個手指都唔需要喐一喐就考第一。
And that we will not be at the top of the class without doing anything.
有時啲父母問我可唔可以幫佢仔女祈禱讀，佢因為考緊試。
And sometimes the parents ask me to pray for the children when they're taking the exams.
我問佢：你仔女有冇讀書啊？
Or ask them, the parents, did your
有冇勤力啊？
children study? Did they make an effort?
我話：如果佢勤力嘅話，我呢個禱告有作用；如果佢唔用功、唔勤力嘅話，即係靠我祈禱咧，佢唔會合格嘅。
And if they're diligent and they give them effort, they will pass. And if you only rely on my prayer without being diligent, then they will not pass.
神唔會幫我哋考試，
And God will not take the test for us.
神永遠冇咁蠢嘅。
God is never that foolish.
因為神如果幫我哋考試孭咗我哋嘅話，佢就係縱容我哋懶惰，要得到一個冇自己勞力嘅勝利。
And if God is carrying us when we're facing this test, He's spoiling us, and that we are gaining something without giving an effort.
有責任嘅父母都唔會咁樣做。
And no matter whoever the parent is, they will never do that.
你愛你嘅兒女嘅時候，你就唔會幫佢走去考試，幫佢試場裏邊係替佢考試。
And you love your children, you will not take the test for your children.
我哋做兒女嘅，亦都唔好指意我哋父母會幫你請槍，幫你去咁樣做。
And as children, do not think that your parent will do this for you.
所以唔好睇錯，唔好以為只係得我哋留翻我哋一對嘅足印，就係神幫我哋做晒所有嘢，我哋唔可以判咗爛咁樣。
Do not be mistaken. When we see one set of footprint, it does not mean God have done everything for us.
我哋唔好以為嗰個時間我可以做軟腳蟹，等待神背負我哋，因為我哋行唔喐啦。
And do not think at that time that we could relax and allow God to carry us.
你問一問希西家，問一問大衛，你就知道咧係講唔通㗎。
You can ask David and you can ask Hezekiah.
佢哋撞板就係咁樣啦，因為佢哋唔察覺到嗰個最軟弱嘅時間，神係幫緊佢行運事。
And they got into trouble because they could not discern that at this time when the most weakest is actually a test to them from God.
其實神係希望佢哋成功，
Actually, God wanted them to be successful,
唔
to
係要失
pass,
敗嘅。
and not to fail.
希望佢哋起來嚟到爭戰，唔係放棄佢失敗。
And hopefully they will get up and fight and not to give up.
所以當你見到有一對足印，唔係兩雙嘅足印嘅時候，
So when you only see one set of footprint,
神做緊乜嘢咧？
what is God doing?
神睇緊你點做。
And God looking at your heart.
到底你係起嚟爭戰啊，還是放棄去失敗咧？
Are you going to get up and fight, or you just give up and fail?
你知道啊，教人游水嘅時候，你可以捉住佢游，但係始終有一日你都要放開手，讓佢自己去游，唔係孭住佢游。
You know that when you're learning to swim, or you're teaching people to swim, you could hold them for a while, but eventually you have to let go of them and let them swim themselves.
如果最困難嘅時候，最艱困難嘅功課，父母幫佢做咗嘅時候咧，啲兒女咧肯定讀書讀唔成功。
And if the parents have have helped the children to pass the most difficult time, for sure the children will not pass an exam.
當最困難嘅時候，佢哋願意嚟到努力嘅時候，佢哋會考贏。
And if they are willing to put in the work, to be diligent during this difficult time, they will be successful.
教人踩單車一樣，
The same as you teach someone to ride
你
bicycle.
可以推佢，
You could push them,
但係你唔能夠一世推佢。
or you cannot push them all their lives.
始終咧，你要放手，讓佢自己靠着自己嘅力量，唔需要人哋扶佢嘅時候，先至學到成功踩單車。
And you one day you have to let go to allow them to do it themselves. That's the only way they can learn to ride a bike.
當神放開手嘅時候，
When God let go of you,
當你覺得無助嘅時候，
when you feel that you're helpless,
唔係神放棄你，
not because God have given
乃
up
神
on you,
考驗你，
yet rather that God is
俾
testing
你
you,
勝過，俾你可以自力更生，企喺自己嘅腳嘅上高，成為得
allow
勝
you
嘅
to
人。
be independent and have victory by yourself.
所以當你見到自己相足人嘅時候，你要小心翼翼，
And you only see one, when you see on one set of footprint, you need to be careful
帶起十二嘅精神，唔好疏忽，唔好粗心大意，
and put yourself in high alert and not to be careless,
因為神係考驗緊你。
because God is testing you at this time.
我頭先問咗個問題，開始嘅時候，
At the beginning, I asked you a question.
我問你，到底你考試有冇合格咧？
Is that have you passed your test?
頭先你唔明白我講咩意思嘅？我希望你知道。
You may
但係-
not understand what I said about before, but
但你
you
話
know.
考咩試啊？
Well, what test are you talking about?
考冠狀病毒嘅試，
It's the test of COVID-19.
考呢一個隔離獨處獨自一個人嘅試，
The testing when you need to be isolated.
考一個覺得自己無助、覺得自己低落嘅試。
and to a test where you're downcast and you're helpless.
我相信過去一年封城嘅之後，我哋經歷過好大嘅考驗，精神啊、心理健康啊、就好多嘅咩啊，經歷嘅考驗。
I believe during this lockdown, the whole year, that psychologically and emotionally, we are being tested.
你估有冇神有冇考你試咧？
Do you think that God have put you through a test?
希望你知道，肯定有。
I hope that you know for sure God has,
只不過我哋完全冇留意到，
but rather you didn't pay attention to it.
神藉着咁呢個千載難逢嘅機會喎，成一個世紀裏邊都冇咁嘅經歷嘅，就係千載難逢嘅機會，難逢嘅機會，嚟考驗我哋。
That through this very rare opportunity, God put us to a test.
神睇下你經唔經得起呢個咁嘅困難嘅考驗。
And God wants to see if you are able to overcome this test, this difficult test.
睇你係咪成功得勝嘅真金啊，還是失敗嘅草木禾秸咧？
And to see if you are actually the real gold, the pure gold, or rather you are a wood, hay, or straw.
你估你合格嘛？
Do you think you have passed?
你有冇合格啊？
Did you pass?
你連咩考試都唔知道，點知道自己合唔合格啊？
Well, you didn't even know there was a test. How do I know if I passed or not?
有啲人會講啊，合格唔合格有乜緊要啊？唔合格咪再考過咯。
Some people may say, well, whether I passed or not doesn't matter. I'll just take a test again.
好似嗰個考車牌考唔到嘅，咪考嚟又考，考幾次咪考到合格為止咯。
Just as those who have go through road test, if you fail, then you go back and take the test again.
我就唔想佢再有延長呢咁嘅有年半嘅封城嗰啲咁多嘅困難嘅問題。
But for me, I don't want to go through that lockdown for another year and a half and go through all difficulties
行一
again.
次夠啦。
Once is enough.
有啲人又咁講喎。
And some people may say this.
Well， 考到考唔到有乜分別啊？
So what's the difference between passing and failing?
合格同唔合格冇分別嘅，可能唔合格仲好啲添。
And there's no difference. Maybe it's better if you failed.
嗱，我解釋俾你聽點解啲人咁諗咧。
I'll explain to you why people think this way.
喺士師記裏邊所講啊，當神差遣呢個基甸去拯救以色列人，去因為啲米地人欺凌佢哋，要拯救佢哋。
And in the book of Judges, that the Israelites being oppressed by the Midianites.
然後基甸招募咗12000人。
And at that time, that Gideon have gathered about 12,000 people.
神去同阿基甸講話，太多人啦，
And God said to Gideon, "There's too many.
我唔能夠帶咁多人去打唔贏仗㗎。
You cannot bring so many. I will not win."
帶佢哋去飲水。
So they brought them to drink water.
佢啲人唔滿以為係飲水啫，點解知想唔到原來神咧係俾佢哋一個恩別試，係鑑定佢哋好還是壞，係咪成才嘅人。
And they didn't know that they were just simply drinking water. Didn't know that God is actually putting them through a screening to see who is good and who is bad.
記唔記得頭先所講啊？飲水神都可以幫你考試，睇我哋得唔得嘅喎。今趟就係用咁個例子啦。
And as we said before, even when we drink water, it could be a test.
有啲基督徒就諗啦，心水清嘅基督徒好叻嗰啲人，佢點諗咧？佢話嗰啲肥佬嗰啲啊。 有9000人咁多啊！9000啊，101,700人啊！佢哋唔使去打仗啊，佢哋可以翻屋企，可以嘆世界，咁幾好啊
！And those who are clear in mind know that there's about 11,700 people who have failed, and they were sent home, and they can enjoy peacefully at home.
只係300人需去打仗啫嘛。
There's only 300 who went to war.
如果我失敗咗唔合格。 神叫我翻屋企乜嘢都唔使做，安枕無憂幾好咧。
And if I failed and God sent me home, I don't do anything, and that's very comfortable to me.
當然我唔需要用聖經嚟解釋，大家都知道呢咁嘅態度係唔要得嘅。
Even without the explaining through the Bible, we know that this is the wrong attitude.
神叫你翻屋企啊，因為你係爛泥都唔扶得上壁啊，係冇作用嘅一個真係寄生蟲嘅。
And God sent you home because you are useless, you are just a parasite.
神係希望俾你一個賞賜，就係使到你成為嗰300嘅人當中一個，但係你自己放棄咗啊。
And God actually wanted you give you reward to be one of the 300, yet you had given up yourself.
其實好多嚴重嘅後果嘅。有一日見到神嘅時候，
And that we need to know there's a severe consequences on the day that we see God.
所以再問大家問題：過去1年半當中，神俾你考呢個冠狀病毒試，你合唔合格咧？
So let me ask you once again that in this COVID test that God given you, have you passed?
我哋好難知道。
It's very hard
我今日都唔
for us to
判
know
斷大
for
家
sure.，
我今日唔判斷到大家，因為我哋都見唔到大家好多嘅，都大家喺網上只係見到啫。
I cannot judge. Another cannot judge you today because a lot of time we only see you online.
但係我睇到普遍嘅呢個世界裏邊嘅嘢，其實睇到啲冠狀病毒呢件事咧，係一個好嘅試金石。
But actually, in general, I can see that this COVID test is actually a very good touchstone.
睇到人生百態，一覽無遺。
We could see the whole spectrum of the reaction from people.
好嘅睇到，醜惡嘅睇到。
We see the good and also the bad.
而神嘅兒女都不在例外。
And there's no exception for the children of God.
我哋見到神嘅兒女同外邊人冇分別，同樣有反叛、自私、放棄、懼怕、恐懼、懦弱。
That we see the same thing in God's people, that they're rebellious, they're selfish, and they gave up, they have fear, and they're cowardice.
唔服權，連牧師帶頭都可以唔服權，或者散佈謠言、妖言惑眾。
And they're not submissive to the authority. Even the pastor are not submissive to the authority.
響呢個
And
冠
they
狀
have they bring up rumors and deceive the people.
響呢個冠狀病毒期間裏邊，謠言滿天飛。
And you can see that during this time, there's a lot of rumors.
我哋要反省一下，呢1年半裏邊，我哋成績點樣樣咧？
We need to reflect on the past year and a half. How did we do?
我哋犯咗咩毛病咧？
What problem did we see?
年老嘅弟兄姊妹啊，
Brothers and sisters,
我希望大家雖然有呢個自由去用呢個手機啊、平板電腦啊諸如此類嘅，我哋好小心啊！
that those who are online, that even though we have the freedom to use our cell phones, our tablets,
我哋見到啲老人家咧，真係傳好多不同嘅謠言啊！
we see that among the seniors, they have a lot of rumor going around.
你收到啲咁嘅人哋發俾你嘅嘢，你就以為係真嘅，就係又傳出去啦，係以訛傳訛。
And that you receive something, someone send you something, and you thought that was the truth, and you send it out to other people.
未有冠狀病毒之前啊，用電腦啲人啊，係學咗啲功課，你都要學啊，就係話咧，原來你所收到電腦人哋發俾你嘅嘢咧，請你唔好再轉發出去啊！
One thing that some have learned before the pandemic is that whatever you receive from others, please do not send it out to others.
有陣時有啲係病毒啦，有好多無謂嘅嘢啦，諸如此類，有好多嘅垃圾啦。
There's a lot, maybe that viruses, maybe things that are not useful, and even some that are garbage.
有好多謠言係幫唔到人嘅。
And a lot of these things, these rumors, are not helpful.
但你又唔知啱與唔啱，你都冇咁嘅工具去揾到驗證你所收嘅嘢，你就轉發出去啦。
And before you are able to verify, to discern if what you received is right or wrong, you already sent it out already.
今早一個姊妹錄音俾我留言，
And this morning, a sister has left me a voice
佢話唔
message.
得㗎，唔得啊！佢話咧，我聽講啊，而家啲人去教會啊，俾人捉啊，要捉每一個人罰幾千蚊啊，所以唔得啊，唔可以去教會啦。
And she was saying, no, don't go to church because I heard that people are being fined thousands of dollars when they go to church.
我哋喺滿地可冇乜聽到咁嘅嘢，加拿大整體都冇乜大聽到佢係1-2間咁嘅教會，響油坡頭一間教會同政府嚟作對嘅，嗰個牧師係被捉嘅，係嗰一間教會，唔係等於所有教會都有咁問題，唔係等於我哋呢班人咧係犯咗法。
And that in Montreal in general, we don't hear anything about it. Neither in general in Canada. It's only the 1 or 2 churches who oppose the government in Alberta that only that church were being fined.
8月至到而家，我哋一班人嚟做呢個直播，冇一個警察入過嚟我哋呢度話我哋犯咗法，亦都冇被捉咗去罰款，因為我哋所做嘅係合法，係根據政府所容許嘅。
Since the last year in August that we have this online meeting, until now that no policeman that came and accused us that we have broken the law.
所以呢個冠狀病毒期間係考緊我哋試嘅。
And so actually during this time of the pandemic, that we are going through a test.
你有冇肥咗腦咧？
Did you fail?
你有冇以訛傳訛咧？
You have to pass on these false rumors.
最後一個例子講，
The last example.
我哋唔好以為自己比人哋好，
Do not think that you're better than others.
肯定就冇事以為自己。
And that you're sure that you did not fail.
摩西喺曠野40年，睇到呢10次嘅試探，10次嘅試煉。
And Moses was in the wilderness for 40 years and witnessed this 10 tests.
佢啲贏咗，合格咗。
And through this 10 that he passed.
但係最後一次，
But the last time,
佢唔醒水，
he was not careful.
老貓燒鬚，佢唔留心神所講嘅説話。
That he did not pay attention to what God has said.
今日係第2次神得佢哋冇熱水飲嘅時候，神叫佢哋吩咐呢個磐石流水出嚟。
And the second time when they have water to drink, that God asked him to speak to the rock.
神第一次叫佢攞條棍嚟剝個石頭就有水噶啦，咁就真係有水。
And the first time God asked him to strike the rock, so the water will flow out of it.
你話摩西聖經百字咁有經驗，神佢做一次都冇失手啦，今堂應該冇失手啦，但係就失咗手。
And you may think that Moses so experienced that he have to listen to God all this time that he will not make a misstep this time.
因為佢冇留心啊，
But he was not careful.
佢聽到以色列人發怨言嘅時候，佢發嬲，火遮眼，爆晒火。
And he was not attentive when he heard the complaint of the Israelites that he was angry.
佢話你班人咁樣，我俾啲水你飲啦，咁一打落去嗰個咁嘅磐石上高。
And say, you people are so rebellious, I'll give you water. And he struck the rock.
神叫佢吩咐啊，唔係叫佢打。
And God asked him to speak to the rock and not to strike
神
it.
話今趟你犯啲咁嘅大嘅罪啊，係冒犯咗一個冒犯嘅大罪，因為你喺人嘅面前唔尊重我。
And God said that at this time that you have dishonored me.
所以你唔入得迦南。
For this reason, you will not be able to enter into the land of
我
Canaan.
簡單解釋點解話咁大冒犯咧？卜一卜即係頭實第一次要卜又冇事，點解第二次卜冇有事咧？
And I want to explain to you how come he got into trouble striking the rock this time when it was okay the first time.
原來唔係咁簡單嘅。
It's not quite that simple.
原來呢個磐石啊，聖經裏邊喺呢個哥林多前書10章第4節裏面所講，呢個磐石係一直跟住佢，英文啊中文叫隨着他們嘅靈嘅盤，他們的靈磐石，係佢哋去到邊度都跟住一嚿石。
That is this rock that followed them everywhere in the wilderness.
唔係佢哋抬去嘅石，係跟住嘅石。
It's not a rock that they carry with them, but a rock that follows them.
而呢個石好特別嘅，好巴閉嘅喎。呢個石咧係出水嘅。
And even there's water that would come out from this rock.
而呢個石咧可以俾200多萬嘅人飲水足夠飲嘅。
And it have enough water for 2 million people.
呢個石有冇可能存到咁多水咧？
Is it possible for that rock to contain so much water?
呢個大嘅水塘咁大嘅面積先可以，點解俾咁多人飲啊？點解呢個石可以咁巴閉咧？
You need to have a huge reservoir to have enough for 2 million people.
原來嗰個彼得前書呢個經文裏邊所講嘅第4節裏邊所講，呢個磐石原來就係基督。
That in his 1 Corinthians chapter 10, it says that this rock was Christ.
我哋唔係擬人化，將石頭都要拜，唔係咁嘅意思喎。但我要俾個比喻，你知道，當我哋講到喺曠野裏邊跟隨佢哋有雲柱同埋火柱。
Let me explain to you about this, that in the wilderness, the Israelites were being led by a column of smoke and a column of fire.
乃係神嘅同在，神響當中嘅，響雲柱裏邊，火柱裏邊。
It is the presence of God. God is in the smoke and in the fire.
呢個咁嘅磐石咧，呢度所解釋就係基督。基督響裏邊俾水出嚟，唔係個石咁巴閉。嗱，基督響裏邊將水俾出嚟，先至有咁嘅神蹟發生。
And this rock was Christ. Christ was in this rock, and for that reason, he was able to give out the water for so many
彼得
people.
前書第2章第4節裏面所講到嘅，佢話呢個就係主，呢個係活石嚟嘅，就係講呢嚿石啦。
That in the First Peter it said, "This is the living stone."
所以摩西唔合格就係咩啊？佢喺神人嘅面前冇尊重神。
So where Moses failed, that he did not honor God in the
佢
presence of the
擊打呢
people.
個活石，呢個靈盤，呢個靈盤就係基督。
That he have struck this living stone that was Christ.
到最後經歷10次嘅考試，佢成功，但係最後公開一季失敗咗。
And even though he had passed the 10 tests before, yet he failed this one last test.
弟兄姊妹啊，
Brothers and sisters,
如果摩西會失敗，我哋有邊個敢話我哋唔會咧？
if even Moses failed, then how can we claim that we will never
我哋結
fail?
論就係我哋越嚟越接近重開嘅日子。
And even though that we're closer and closer to reopening,
只要大多數人打咗疫苗嘅時候，政府就會重開呢個城市。
and when most people have received this vaccine, then the government will reopen the
我
city.
預早見到啊，當重開日子裏邊咧，好多人都會開心心嚟慶祝。
And I can see many people will celebrate in gladness.
但係我哋都見到一樣嘢就係、有冇咁嘅可能？我哋好似以色列人一樣咧，到最後要入應許地，最後班頭神話你要入去應許地去享福啦。
But I also see would we be like the Israelites that we are about to enter into the promised land,
而我哋睇唔到呢個試驗考驗，
that we did not see the test that is before us.
我哋有啲人好似以色列人一樣咧，係冇份入去，
And some of us were not able to enter
因為我哋唔願意入去。
because you're not willing to
我哋
enter.
做慣乞兒懶做官，我哋寧願留喺呢個曠野裏邊。
We just want to stay where we are in the wilderness.
終點就係嚟到啦，我哋會享福，但係我哋會臨陣退縮，用好多嘅理由唔願意進去。
The finish line is near, yet we are unwilling to cross it.
聖經裏面講，凡40歲以上嘅個個都肥咗佬。
And the Bible tells us that all those who are 40 years old and over, they all failed.
冇一個合格，
None of them passed.
因為當重開嘅時候，當進迦南嘅時候，佢哋唔想入去。
At the reopening, when they are about to enter into Canaan, they are not willing to go in.
有冇有可能就話我留喺屋企舒服啲？我年紀都係咁樣，我唔出街噶啦。
And you may think that, well, I'm more comfortable where I am now. I will not go out anymore.
我啲兒女我唔想去做，佢有咁多病菌，驚住帶咗病毒翻嚟啊！
And I'm very concerned about my children. I don't want to bring back the virus to my family.
我哋呢排聽到好多不同嗰啲人所講嘅説話啊，其實佢哋真係到時候重開嘅時候好多問題嘅。
And I heard the things being said from many people. I believe they will have many difficulties when we reopen.
唔好打啲針啊，毒針嚟嘅，打死人㗎。
And don't take the vaccine because it will make you sick.
改變你嘅基因㗎。
It will change your DNA.
有好多嘅謠言，我哋係縱容自己唔去做嘅。
And a lot of rumors that allow us to give an excuse not to do it.
弟兄姊妹，喺你1年半當中，你有冇犯咗咁嘅毛病咧？
And just the past year and a half, have you have this problem?
你有冇發過怨言咧？有冇反叛過？有冇失信心咧？
Have you lost faith? Have you be rebellious?
你有冇埋怨過咧？
Did you complain?
你有冇惹神發嬲咧？
And did you provoke God to anger?
你有冇散播謠言咧？
And have you spread rumors?
我哋要悔改啊！
We have to repent.
我哋要求神饒恕我
We
哋，
ask God to forgive
求
us.
神手下留情，發怒嘅時候憐憫我哋。
And ask God to relent and have mercy upon us.
我哋要合格，唔係要肥佬噶。
We want to pass and not to fail.
弟兄姊妹，我哋起身，
Brothers and sisters, let's stand.
我哋唱一首呢咁嘅詩歌，就係鼓勵我哋係向前行，去打贏呢場仗。
We sing this song to encourage to go forward and to win this battle.
係呢個為主耶穌嗰啲步行嘅時候，我哋學神。